The war had ended, but the scars it left behind were still fresh in everyone's minds. 4 years, humanity and the alien race known as the Valens had clashed over territory, resources, and misunderstandings that spiraled into bloodshed. The Valens, with their shimmering skin that reflected light like liquid gold, were both beautiful and terrifying. Their technology was advanced beyond anything humans could have imagined, yet they fought not just with machines but with an unyielding sense of honor. Commander Theo Harlan stood on the battlefield where the final treaty had been signed. His armor was battered, his face lined with exhaustion, but there was a quiet relief in his eyes. Around him, soldiers from both sides mingled awkwardly, unsure what to do now that the fighting had stopped. It felt strange to stand so close to beings who had once been enemies without raising weapons or shields. And then she appeared. Princess Elira Vera, the youngest daughter of the Valen High Council, stepped out from her retinue. She was breathtaking. Her golden skin seemed to glow softly under the twin suns of this distant planet, and her long silver hair flowed like water down her back. Her presence commanded attention, even among the chaos of post-war negotiations. When she turned and locked her gaze onto Commander Harlan, time seemed to freeze. For a moment, neither moved. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips, and walked away. Just like that. No words exchanged. No formalities observed. Yet something about that smile lingered in Theo's mind long after she disappeared into the crowd. Days passed, and life began to settle into a fragile peace. The human fleet remained stationed near the Valen homeworld, overseeing the implementation of the treaty terms. Theo found himself caught between his duty as a soldier and the growing curiosity about the enigmatic princess who had briefly captured his attention. Then one day, an invitation arrived. It came in the form of a holographic message, delivered by a sleek drone that hovered silently outside his quarters. The projection flickered to life, revealing Princess Elira herself. Her voice was melodic, each word carefully chosen. "Commander Harlan," she said, her expression unreadable. "I would like to extend an invitation for you to visit our palace. There are matters we must discuss regarding the future of our peoples." A pause, then a hint of amusement crossed her features. "And perhaps, other things." Theo stared at the message for a long moment before nodding to himself. Whatever this was, he couldn't ignore it. He accepted the invitation. The Valen Palace was unlike anything Theo had ever seen. Towering spires made of crystalline material reached toward the sky, refracting sunlight into dazzling rainbows. Gardens filled with bioluminescent plants stretched endlessly, their soft glow illuminating winding pathways. Servants moved gracefully through the halls, their movements almost hypnotic. When Theo entered the grand hall, Elira was waiting for him. She wore a flowing gown that shimmered like starlight, and her piercing violet eyes studied him intently. "You came," she said simply, inclining her head slightly. "I did," Theo replied, keeping his tone neutral despite the knot of nerves tightening in his stomach. "You said there were matters to discuss." Elira gestured for him to follow her, leading him through a series of ornate corridors until they reached a private chamber. Once inside, she turned to face him, her expression softer now. "The war has ended, but trust takes longer to build than treaties," she began. "Our people need more than promises, they need understanding. And I believe you can help bridge that gap." Theo frowned. "How?" "By being here," Elira said, stepping closer. "By showing them that humans are not just conquerors or invaders, but individuals capable of compassion and cooperation." Her words struck a chord within him, though he wasn't sure why. Perhaps it was the sincerity in her voice, or the way she looked at him, as if she saw more than just a soldier. As days turned into weeks, Theo found himself spending more time at the palace. They talked about everything: politics, culture, philosophy. Elira had a sharp wit and a playful sense of humor that caught him off guard more than once. She teased him mercilessly about human customs, particularly their obsession with coffee, while he countered by questioning the logic behind Valen courtship rituals. Their bond deepened, though neither dared to name it. Still, moments of tension arose, not all of them light-hearted. One evening, during a heated debate about resource allocation, Elira snapped at him. "Do you think your species is the only one suffering? We lost worlds too," Commander. Worlds we cannot reclaim. Theo fell silent, realizing how much pain lay beneath her composed exterior. From that point on, he made a conscious effort to listen more and speak less. Despite their growing connection, challenges loomed large. Alira's family viewed Theo with suspicion, especially her elder brother, Prince Kale. Tall and imposing, Kale carried himself with an air of authority that bordered on arrogance. He openly questioned Alira's intentions, accusing her of jeopardizing their dynasty by fraternizing with a human. "You're playing a dangerous game, sister," Kale warned during one tense dinner. "The council will never approve of this alliance." "It isn't about approval," Alira shot back, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. "It's about progress. About moving forward instead of clinging to outdated prejudices." Kale sneered. "Progress? Or infatuation?" Theo clenched his fists under the table but kept his composure. He knew better than to provoke a prince in his own domain. Instead, he focused on supporting Alira however he could, standing by her side when others tried to tear her down. One night, after another exhausting confrontation with her family, Alira led Theo to a secluded balcony overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, with lights twinkling like stars scattered across the horizon. "I'm sorry," she murmured, leaning against the railing, "for dragging you into this mess." "Don't apologize," Theo said firmly. "If anything, I should thank you. You've shown me a side of your people I never expected to see." Alira glanced at him, her lips curving into a faint smile. "And what side is that?" "The side that believes in hope," he replied, "even when it seems impossible." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their struggles momentarily lifted. But as the days went on, new obstacles emerged. Rumors spread among the Valen nobility, painting Theo as a spy sent to infiltrate their ranks. Some even accused him of manipulating Alira for political gain. The accusations stung, not because they were true, but because they highlighted the deep mistrust that still existed between their species. Determined to prove his sincerity, Theo threw himself into diplomatic efforts. He organized cultural exchanges, facilitated trade agreements, and worked tirelessly to dispel misconceptions. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. Not everyone welcomed the change, of course. Resistance remained strong, but progress was undeniable. Through it all, Alira remained his steadfast ally. Together, they faced ridicule, threats, and even attempts on Theo's life. Each challenge only strengthened their resolve, forging a bond that transcended species and tradition. Yet even as their relationship flourished, shadows loomed on the horizon. Dark forces within the Valen government conspired against them, seeking to undermine their efforts and restore the old order. And somewhere, hidden in the depths of space, remnants of the war still lingered, waiting for the right moment to strike again. But for now, Theo and Alira stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The tension in the air was palpable as whispers of rebellion began to ripple through the Valen court. While Theo and Alira worked tirelessly to foster peace, there were those who refused to let go of the past. Chief among them was High Counselor Zareen, Alira's aunt and one of the most influential figures in the royal family. Zareen had always been a staunch traditionalist, viewing humans not as potential allies but as invaders who needed to be controlled or eliminated. One evening, during a formal banquet hosted by the royal family, Zareen made her move. The grand hall buzzed with conversation as dignitaries from both human and Valen factions mingled uneasily. Crystal chandeliers cast shimmering light over the room, and servants circulated with trays of exotic delicacies. But beneath the veneer of civility, danger lurked. Zareen approached Theo under the guise of polite curiosity. Her golden eyes glinted dangerously as she smiled, a predator sizing up its prey. "Commander Harlan," she purred, her voice dripping with false warmth. "You've certainly made quite an impression on my niece. Tell me, do you truly believe your presence here serves any purpose beyond personal indulgence?" Theo met her gaze without flinching, though every instinct screamed at him to tread carefully. "My purpose is the same as everyone else's in this room, to ensure lasting peace between our peoples." "How noble," Zareen replied, her tone laced with mockery. "But tell me, Commander, How does a soldier like yourself plan to navigate the intricacies of diplomacy when your kind has shown such aggression in the past? Before Theo could respond, Elira appeared at his side, her expression calm but firm. "Aunt Zareen," she said coolly, "I trust you're not implying that Commander Harlan is unwelcome here." "Not at all, dear," Zareen said, her smile widening. "I merely wish to understand his intentions. After all, we wouldn't want history to repeat itself, would we?" The veiled threat hung heavy in the air, but Elira didn't back down. "History won't repeat itself because we're creating something new. Something better. And if anyone doubts that, they'll have to answer to me." Zareen's smile faltered for just a moment before she regained her composure. With a curt nod, she excused herself, leaving Theo and Elira alone. "That woman despises me," Theo muttered once Zareen was out of earshot. "She despises change," Elira corrected. "And unfortunately, she's not alone. There are others who share her views, some openly, others in secret." "What do we do about it?" Theo asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "Every time we take 2 steps forward, someone tries to drag us 3 steps back." "We keep moving forward," Elira said firmly. "No matter how hard they try to stop us." Despite their determination, the obstacles only grew more daunting. A few days later, a mysterious explosion rocked the outskirts of the capital city, destroying a key supply depot used for humanitarian aid. Both human and Valen lives were lost, and panic spread like wildfire. Accusations flew in every direction, with some blaming rogue factions within the Valen military and others pointing fingers at human saboteurs. Theo found himself caught in the middle of the chaos. As a representative of humanity, he was summoned to an emergency council meeting to address the incident. The atmosphere in the council chamber was tense, with voices raised in anger and fear. Kale, ever eager to assert his authority, wasted no time laying blame. "This attack reeks of human treachery," he declared, slamming his fist on the table. "How can we trust them when they continue to endanger our people?" "That's enough, Kale," Elira interjected, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "We don't know who's responsible yet. Jumping to conclusions will only make things worse. And what do you suggest we do instead?" Kale shot back. "Wait patiently while they plot their next move?" "I suggest we investigate properly," Elira countered. "Commander Harlan has cooperated fully with our efforts thus far. If anything, this tragedy proves we need stronger collaboration, not division." Kale sneered but said nothing further, retreating into sullen silence. Meanwhile, Zareen watched the exchange with calculating eyes, clearly pleased by the discord she'd helped sow. After the meeting, Theo pulled Elira aside. "This isn't going to stop, is it? They're going to keep using these incidents to turn people against us." Elira sighed, running a hand through her silvery hair. "Probably. But we can't give them the satisfaction of seeing us fall apart. We'll find out who's behind this, and we'll expose them." True to her word, Elira threw herself into the investigation, working closely with Theo to gather evidence and piece together clues. What they discovered shocked them both. The attack hadn't been carried out by either side. Instead, it was orchestrated by a shadowy third party known as the Obsidian Syndicate, a mercenary group infamous for exploiting conflicts across the galaxy. "They're trying to reignite the war," Theo realized, staring at the data sprawled across the holoscreen. "If they can drive a wedge between us, they'll profit from the chaos." "But why target aid supplies?" Elira wondered aloud. "Why kill innocent civilians?" "Because fear sells," Theo explained grimly. "They're banking on outrage turning into violence. It's textbook manipulation." Determined to thwart the Syndicate's plans, Theo and Elira devised a daring counterattack. Using intel gathered from their investigation, they identified a key Syndicate operative operating undercover within the Valen government. With careful planning, they set a trap, luring the operative into revealing crucial information about the group's operations. The confrontation took place in the dead of night, deep within the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the palace. Theo led a small team of trusted soldiers, while Elira accompanied them, her knowledge of the palace's hidden passages proving invaluable. The mission was fraught with peril, alarms blared, guards closed in, and the syndicate agent fought back with ruthless efficiency. But in the end, they succeeded, not only capturing the operative but also uncovering a trove of incriminating evidence that exposed the syndicate's involvement. When the truth came to light, it sent shockwaves through the Valen court. Even Zareen and Kale couldn't deny the evidence, though they remained reluctant to admit their suspicions of Theo might have been misplaced. For the first time, cracks began to form in the wall of distrust separating the two species. With the immediate threat neutralized, Theo and Elira turned their focus back to building bridges. Their efforts bore fruit in unexpected ways. Joint cultural festivals brought humans and Valens together, fostering mutual understanding and respect. Trade agreements flourished, benefiting both economies. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, attitudes began to shift. Yet amidst the progress, personal challenges arose. Elira faced mounting pressure from her family to choose a suitor from within the royal lineage, a decision she steadfastly refused to make. Her defiance infuriated Kale, who saw her attachment to Theo as a betrayal of their heritage. "You're throwing away centuries of tradition for a human." Kale exploded during one particularly heated argument. "Do you have any idea what this means for our dynasty? For our legacy?" "Our legacy isn't defined by whom I marry," Elira shot back, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's defined by the choices we make and the future we build. If you can't see that, then you're no better than Zareen." Kale stormed off, leaving Elira shaken but resolute. Later that night, she confided in Theo, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how much longer I can fight them," she admitted. "Sometimes it feels like I'm standing alone against the entire universe." "You're not alone," Theo said gently, pulling her into his arms. "Not as long as I'm here." Their embrace provided solace, but the road ahead remained uncertain. As tensions simmered within the royal family, external threats loomed larger than ever. Reports surfaced of a massive fleet amassing near the edge of Valen space, a force rumored to belong to a rival alien empire seeking to exploit the region's instability. Theo and Elira knew they couldn't face this new danger alone. They needed unity, not just between humans and Valens, but among all factions willing to stand against tyranny. Rallying support wouldn't be easy, especially with so many still divided by prejudice and fear. But if anyone could inspire hope in the face of despair, it was them. The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and uncertainty. The looming threat of the rival alien empire cast a shadow over everything, but amidst the chaos, Theo and Elira found moments to lean on each other in ways they never had before. It was in those quiet, stolen seconds between strategy meetings and diplomatic negotiations that their bond deepened, transforming from an alliance of necessity into something far more profound. One evening, after another grueling day of rallying support for the impending conflict, Elira invited Theo to join her in the palace's star observatory, a secluded chamber perched high above the city. The room was circular, with walls made entirely of transparent crystal that offered an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across velvet, and the twin moons of the Valen homeworld hung low on the horizon, bathing the room in soft silver light. Elira stood by the railing, gazing out at the endless expanse. She looked smaller somehow, her usual regal demeanor softened by weariness and vulnerability. Theo hesitated at the doorway, unsure if he should intrude on her solitude, but she turned and beckoned him closer with a faint smile. "You look tired," Theo said gently as he approached. "So do you," Elira replied, her voice tinged with humor despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "I suppose saving the galaxy is harder than it sounds." Theo chuckled softly, leaning against the railing beside her. "Maybe we should have read the fine print before signing up." For a moment, they simply stood there in companionable silence, watching the stars drift lazily across the sky. Then Elira spoke, her tone quieter now. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to live without all this madness?" Theo glanced at her, surprised by the question. "Sometimes. But then I think about how boring life would be without challenges to overcome, or people worth fighting for." Elira met his gaze, her violet eyes searching his face. There was something raw and honest in her expression, as though she were letting down a wall she'd kept firmly in place for far too long. "You know," she said softly, "when I first saw you on the battlefield, I thought you were just another stubborn human determined to prove himself. But now," she trailed off, shaking her head slightly, "now I realize you're so much more than that. You've shown me strength I didn't know existed, not just in yourself, but in our peoples too." Theo felt a lump rise in his throat. He reached out, hesitating for only a heartbeat before placing his hand over hers where it rested on the railing. Her skin was warm, smooth, and impossibly delicate beneath his calloused fingers. "And you've shown me hope," he admitted. "Hope that maybe, just maybe, we can actually make this work. Not just us, but everyone." Elira's lips curved into a tentative smile, and for the first time, Theo saw tears glistening in her eyes. She didn't try to hide them. Instead, she let them fall freely, as if finally allowing herself to be vulnerable in front of him. "I'm scared, Theo," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Scared of failing. Not just my family or my people, but you. I don't want to lose what we've built together." "You won't," Theo said firmly, squeezing her hand. "We're in this together, Elira. No matter what happens, I'll stand by your side. Always." Her breath hitched, and then she leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply existed in the moment, drawing comfort from each other's presence. In that quiet embrace, their connection solidified, becoming something unshakable, a foundation strong enough to weather whatever storms lay ahead. As the days passed, their relationship continued to grow stronger, even as external pressures mounted. Kale grew increasingly hostile, going so far as to accuse Theo of manipulating Elira during a public assembly. The accusation sparked outrage among the nobles, some of whom sided with Kale while others defended Theo's integrity. Elira handled the situation with grace and poise, publicly denouncing her brother's claims and reaffirming her trust in Theo. "It's not Commander Harlan who seeks to control me," she declared, her voice ringing clear and steady. "It's those who refuse to accept change who seek to control us all. If my brother truly cared about our people, he would focus on uniting them rather than dividing them further." Her words earned her both admiration and scorn, but she remained undeterred. That night, when they retired to her private chambers, Theo found her pacing anxiously, her fists clenched at her sides. "I hate this," she muttered, her frustration evident. "Hate having to justify myself to them, to him. Why can't they see that what we're doing matters?" "They will," Theo assured her, stepping forward to take her hands in his. "It takes time, Elira. Change doesn't happen overnight." "But what if it's too late?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What if the Empire attacks before we're ready? What if—" He silenced her with a kiss, gentle yet firm. When he pulled back, he cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. "We'll be ready," he said. "Because we have each other. And because we believe in what we're fighting for." Elira stared at him for a long moment, her breathing slowing as the tension eased from her body. Then she smiled, a real, radiant smile that lit up her entire face. "You always know exactly what to say," she murmured. "Not always," Theo admitted with a wry grin. "But I'm getting better." They spent the rest of the night talking about everything and nothing, sharing stories from their childhoods and laughing over silly misunderstandings. It was a rare reprieve from the weight of their responsibilities, and they clung to it fiercely, knowing such moments might become scarce in the coming weeks. When the Empire finally struck, it was with devastating force. Their fleet descended upon the Valen system like a storm, unleashing waves of destruction that tested the resolve of every soldier and civilian alike. Theo led the human forces alongside the Valen military, coordinating strategies with precision and courage. Elira joined the fight as well, proving herself not only as a diplomat but as a fierce warrior willing to risk everything for her people. Through it all, their love served as a beacon of hope. Soldiers on both sides drew inspiration from their unity, seeing in Theo and Elira a symbol of what could be achieved when differences were set aside for a greater purpose. Even Kale, who had once been their harshest critic, began to soften, acknowledging their dedication and sacrifice. But the war was far from over, and the cost of victory continued to mount. Cities burned, lives were lost, and the strain of leadership weighed heavily on both Theo and Elira. Yet through every trial, they found strength in each other, their bond growing deeper with every challenge they faced. One night, amidst the ruins of a battlefield, Theo knelt beside Elira as she tended to wounded soldiers. Her hands moved deftly, binding wounds and offering words of encouragement, but her eyes betrayed the toll the conflict had taken on her soul. "We'll get through this," Theo promised, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Together." Elira nodded, her gaze meeting his with unwavering determination. "Together," she echoed. And in that simple exchange, they reaffirmed their commitment, not just to each other, but to the future they were determined to build. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, their love a testament to the power of unity in a fractured universe. The war against the rival alien empire was long and grueling, but in the end, unity prevailed. The combined forces of humans and Valens, led by Theo and Elira, fought with unmatched determination, their bond inspiring soldiers on both sides to push beyond their limits. Slowly but surely, the tide turned in their favor. Through clever strategy, unyielding courage, and a shared vision for peace, they managed to repel the invaders and secure victory. When the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the galaxy seemed to take a collective breath. For the first time in years, there was hope, a fragile, flickering light that promised brighter days ahead. And at the heart of it all were Theo and Elira, standing side by side as symbols of what could be achieved when two worlds came together. At first, acceptance didn't come easily, not even after the war had ended. Kale remained stubbornly resistant to the idea of his sister marrying a human, while Zareen continued to sow seeds of doubt among the nobility. But cracks began to form in their resistance. Soldiers who had fought alongside Theo spoke highly of him, recounting acts of bravery and selflessness that left no room for skepticism. Civilians, too, began to see Theo not as an outsider but as someone who had risked everything to protect them. One pivotal moment came during a ceremony honoring fallen heroes from both species. As Elira delivered a heartfelt speech about sacrifice and unity, she turned to Theo, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Commander Harlan is more than just an ally or a leader," she declared before the assembled crowd. "He is family, to me, and to all of us. Without his unwavering dedication, we would not stand here today." The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the grand hall like a tidal wave. Even Kale, though reluctant, couldn't ignore the swell of support for Theo. Over time, he softened, realizing that his sister's happiness mattered more than tradition. Zareen, seeing her influence wane, retreated into the shadows, her schemes losing power as the people embraced a new era of cooperation. With the barriers finally crumbling, preparations for the wedding began in earnest. It was decided that the ceremony would take place in the palace gardens, surrounded by bioluminescent blooms that glowed softly under the twin moons. Representatives from both human and Valen factions attended, united by a shared desire to celebrate love and resilience. On the day of the wedding, Theo stood nervously beneath an arch adorned with flowers and shimmering crystals. He wore formal attire tailored specifically for the occasion, a blend of human simplicity and Valen elegance. Beside him, Kale, now reconciled and serving as best man, gave him a rare smile. "She's waited a long time for this," Kale said quietly. "Don't screw it up." "I won't," Theo replied, his voice thick with emotion. Then the music began, a hauntingly beautiful melody played by a combination of human instruments and Valen harmonics. All eyes turned toward the entrance, where Elira appeared, radiant in a gown that seemed woven from starlight itself. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, adorned with delicate floral accents, and her violet eyes sparkled with joy. As she walked down the aisle, escorted by her father, the High King, Theo felt his breath catch in his throat. She was breathtaking, not just because of her appearance, but because of the journey they'd undertaken to reach this moment. When she reached him, her father placed her hand in Theo's, nodding approvingly. "You've made my daughter happy," the king said, his tone warm and genuine. "For that, I am eternally grateful." The vows were simple yet profound, spoken in both English and the melodic language of the Valens. Tears flowed freely, not just from Elira and Theo, but from everyone present. By the time they exchanged rings and sealed their union with a kiss, the entire gathering erupted into cheers, celebrating not just a marriage but a new chapter in history. In the years that followed, Theo and Elira's life together became a testament to redemption and harmony. They moved into a sprawling estate near the palace, blending human and Valen architecture into a home that reflected their shared heritage. Their first child, a daughter named Lyra, was born amidst great fanfare, her arrival heralded as a symbol of unity between their peoples. Lyra inherited her mother's golden skin and her father's piercing blue eyes, embodying the best of both worlds. A second child, a son named Orion, joined the family a few years later. With his mischievous grin and boundless energy, he quickly became a favorite among the palace staff. Together, the four of them formed a picture-perfect family, their laughter filling the halls of their home. Kale, once so opposed to their union, became an integral part of their lives. He doted on his niece and nephew, teaching them about Valen traditions while also learning from Theo about human customs. Zareen, though still wary, eventually warmed to the idea of change, especially after witnessing the positive impact Theo and Elira's leadership had on the kingdom. Under their guidance, the alliance between humans and Valens flourished. Trade routes expanded, cultural exchanges thrived, and joint scientific endeavors led to groundbreaking discoveries. The scars of the past began to heal, replaced by a sense of optimism that permeated every corner of society. Even the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the light of a world reborn. Theo often found himself gazing up at the night sky, marveling at how far they'd come since that fateful day on the battlefield. Elira would join him, leaning her head on his shoulder as they watched their children play in the garden below. "We did it," she murmured one evening, her voice soft with wonder. "Against all odds, we built something beautiful." Theo smiled, wrapping an arm around her. "And we'll keep building. Together." As the years stretched into decades, their legacy endured, a shining example of what could be achieved when love triumphed over prejudice, when unity conquered division. In the hearts of those who followed, Theo and Elira's story became a beacon of hope, proof that even in the darkest times, redemption was possible. And so, beneath the twin moons of the Valen homeworld, they lived happily ever after, not just as husband and wife, but as architects of a brighter future for all.